Well, there was a foursome of senior golfers that were hitting the course with waning enthusiasm for the sport. My friend Sharon's back there wincing. These fairways seem to be getting longer and longer, said one of the foursome. And these hills are getting steeper as the years go by, another complained. The sand traps seem to be bigger than I remember them, too, said the third senior. And after hearing enough from his buddies, the oldest and the wisest of the four of them at 87 years old piped up and said, "Okay, my friends, can you just be thankful that we're still on this side of the green?" Well, I think that's a pretty wise perspective, because I've been embracing that philosophy a lot more of you since you know that I had a momentous birthday. I know I'm talking about this a lot because it was a momentous birthday. And I to celebrate that birthday, I decided I was going to kind of whoop it up a little, and I was going to go to one of my favorite places, and that's California. I have some friends out there, and so I made plans to visit them, and I also, of course, headed out to Sonoma because this minister likes wine. And so I decided to go to Sonoma and just spend my whole birthday day visiting wineries. I even got a driver. And my friend came, and we just had the best fun. It was so awesome. So I did that and spent, a couple days in Sonoma, and then I went to where she lives to visit her and her husband outside of Sacramento, and then I drove back toward the Redwoods, toward Mill Valley. I remember when I was flying, many of you know I was a flight attendant for 11 years, and every time I would go out to California, I would always go, "Oh my God, I just love this." And I would always just want to go and hang out in Marin, the other side of the San Francisco Bridge. I love San Francisco, but, first to be familiar with that, and hang out with these beautiful trees. And so what I decided, because I love trees so much, it actually was a factor in choosing where I lived here in Maryland because I just wanted to be near trees. And thank goodness I had someone help me find a place that backed up to woods. It just was precious to me because they evoke peace and strength and wisdom and just beauty. So anyway, I decided while I was out in Marin to go on a hike, a 4-hour hike through the Redwoods. And so I joined fellow travelers. We had a small group, and this group was led by 2 men who grew up in Marin around these giant beauties their whole lives. So they're very passionate and very knowledgeable about redwoods. And so I wanted to share with you, because I just was learning about these amazing trees, and it just hit me what a lesson, just how they express and how they show up, how they are. It's a spiritual lesson for us. So I'm going to share with you what I learned about the redwoods. Yay. Thank you for listening. Okay. So if we go, here they are. I love them so much. Okay. Their name comes from their red bark. They have red bark. And from a seed that's no bigger than one from a tomato. From a cone that's about that big. It's amazing that these giant trees come from, you have a little cone. A redwood may grow to a height of 367 feet and have a width of about 22 feet at its base. Fossil records have shown that relatives of today's coast redwoods thrived in the Jurassic area 160 million years ago, hanging out with the dinosaurs. But of course the dinosaurs have disappeared, but the redwoods continue to thrive in the right environment. And so California's north coast provides that environment because of the combination of climate and elevation. Of course, the existing redwoods have been around about 20 million years, this present expression of them. And they can reach ages of 2,000 years and regularly reach 600 years. Actually, their close relative, the giant sequoia, can reach over 3,000 years old. And I had just the privilege of going to Yosemite National Park and just being around these amazing 3,000-year-old trees. It just took my breath away. A redwood's bark is incredible. It's basically flame resistant. The redwood sap is made primarily of water, unlike other trees, which supports this fire resistance. It also helps that the highly flammable foliage of the tree is really high. The larger branches of foliage always point outward in order to make room for their neighbors' branches to get sun. Isn't that cool? The wood of the tree has a high tannin content, so it's resistant to disease and fungus and insects. They not only reproduce from a tiny seed, they can reproduce by layering or sprouting from a stump or even fallen branches. This was so cool to me. Okay, so they can also reproduce by something called burls. So when a redwood is stressed, so what was happening, we were walking down this path, and unfortunately many years ago, it disturbed one of the trees in its clearing. So the tree was stressed, and so when the tree gets stressed, what it does is it grows these little interesting, it looks like a big mole on the side of the tree. And so this particular tree that we saw on this trail that had been a little bit stressed because of this path clearing had grown this burl on both sides. So it knows, the tree intuitively knows it's going to fall. And so what it does is it creates this growth. So if it falls in either direction, it will sprout another tree from that burl. Isn't that the coolest? I just love that. They have no taproot. Their roots are very shallow, only going 10 or 13 feet deep, but they make up for it by spreading outward 60 to 100 feet. They thrive in thick groves where the roots can intertwine and even fuse together. This gives them tremendous strength against the forces of nature. And research has been done in recent years about how intertwined roots exchange nutrients and create other ways for the trees to communicate with each other. Large redwoods move hundreds of gallons of water daily in intricate networks along their trunks from root to crown. That's a long way. Because water can often be scarce, the redwood will drop its lower branches, which are not essential to its growth. And when they drop those branches and when they shed their needles, it creates a natural herbicide at the base so other plants won't grow too close to compete for water. I just thought it was amazing. Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing. And so what this really stirred in me, I mean, just to stand there in awe of these magnificent, I think they're beings. I mean, they're alive. I mean, they're so alive. They're so precious and just magnificent that it says so much to me about the infinite wisdom in the universe, folks. I mean, there is an infinite intelligence and wisdom in the universe that is responsible for this magnificence, for these trees that have survived the test of time. And if we think for one moment that we're not a part of that we are not that wisdom, because we are. The thing about nature, though, is that what I loved about these trees is that, they've survived millions and millions of years. And they've just kept on their trajectory of survival and thriving. They're not distracted by all the storms and all the climate change or whatever's happening around them. They keep doing what's theirs to do. And so I thought about that, and I thought how often I can get distracted in my life, from the whirlwind of things happening in my life and not remember that I have a discerning power. I don't remember that I have this infinite wisdom within me. And so, I thought about what really keeps us from tapping in to the infinite wisdom that we are, from really remember that, because we hear that. If you've come to Unity, you know that one of your divine attributes is wisdom. But we can forget, can't we? Our stuff, our busyness, the whirlwind of our past coming and biting at our heels sometimes. But, and also to think that divine wisdom is kind of, Jesus had it. Those spiritual masters had it. Maybe not me. But, Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, said this in Talks on Truth. Whatever Jesus of Nazareth did, it is likewise the privilege of everyone to do. The ability to do such works as he is simply a question of discernment. So spiritual discernment is that inner spiritual faculty of wisdom by which we may receive the revelations of divine mind. But how do we hear those revelations? Well, Edie did a talk a couple weeks ago about listening. And so I found something in Proverbs that said, cease listening to discipline and you will stray from the words of wisdom. So we have to stop and listen. Psalm 46:10, and you've heard this. You've heard this from me. And I know this is really kind of a review for you because I know that you know your wisdom. But I think that we need a little reminder every now and then of Psalm 46:10 that says, be still and know I am God. Be still and know that I am that discerning power. Jesus modeled that, the stories of Jesus where he would be in front of the crowds and he'd go, I need to go get quiet. He would leave the disciples and he'd go get quiet because he needed to tune back into his wisdom so he could discern and make conscious, wise choices. And I don't know what that is for you, where you tune in. Where do you tune in? Where do you stop and listen to your wisdom? Do you stop and listen to your wisdom? Because I love that the psalmist didn't say, go running all around and go to every spiritual workshop and get all those books. And no, the psalmist said, be still and know. So where do you get still? And for me, I'm telling you what, I'm heading to the trees. Where is your place? Where is your place of discernment where you can get still and know the truth of what you are? Because I think that's what we're being invited to do, folks. I think we're being invited right now to make some really conscious, wise choices. And I don't know about you, but when I'm running all around and I'm stressed out, I don't make the wisest choices. I don't make the most grounded choices. I don't make the choices from my highest perspective. And the way that we do that is we tune into our wisdom. And folks, it's always there. And all we need to do, and I love it, it's about fall and the trees are really going to start expressing in a beautiful, colorful way this infinite intelligence that's underneath and in and around everything. It's in and around, and it is you. You are that discerning power. And this is just a reminder talk this morning for you to remember the truth of what you are, that you are infinite wisdom, and that you can tune in and tap into that in any moment. But it helps when you get still, when you take time to reflect. Life is so busy. And also, with this momentous birthday thing, I'm starting to really tap into just a little bit more about the preciousness of life. Once you pass that mid-mark, it's like, oh boy. It's like, so how do we want to live? Do we want to live tuned in from our wisdom? Because I tell you, when we do that, there's a whole lot less drama in life. Life flows more readily and more easily. So, you are the discerning power. If you doubt it, just go hang out with a tree. So let's affirm together. Present and available, I embrace and deepen my ability to discern from the infinite wisdom I am. I make wise, empowered, and grounded choices. Yes, you do. And so it is.